Good morning, Joanne. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate your valuable time, especially considering it is quite early in the morning. I came across your profile and we've been connected for a little while now, and you are an absolute whiz in the HR domain. You are certainly someone that is up to best practice standards. You are certainly someone that is aware of all of the innovation that is occurring in this space, so much so that I would absolutely love to share your profile. And yeah, I'd love you to walk us through your background. You are a consultant in the human capital and HR domain, and you're helping organizations to clear the view of the actual contribution of its human capital in terms of profit by implementing a process that quantifies and measures the expenditure of an organization on its people. So thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Trisha, for having me here. I've been working in the Middle East for almost past 10 years now, and all throughout my career, I've been, passionate in the human capital management. In the past years, most of my colleagues in the HR, and I'm sure they would agree to this, that we've been always discussing that HR should not be seen as an expense that needs to be lowered, but as an asset that helps the organization grow. And all throughout these years, we've been really wondering how to really implement that, how to really do that. Not until in 2019, wherein the ISO launched the ISO 3414 2018. I'm sure, Tricia, you would agree that companies' workforce is often the highest cost in the organization, but measuring the actual return on that investment has been very, very difficult. However, it got a lot easier with the first international guideline for human capital, which is the ISO 3414. And with my passion in really quantifying the contributions of human capital, I got certified under HR metrics as a consultant, the ISO 3414. Then I approached ISO, approached our government in the Philippines. So I'm now part of the committee, ISO Technical Committee 260, the committee that develops the global standards in human capital. So yeah, and the rest is history. I've been helping organizations align their human capital management against these international standards.
Fantastic. It's really such an innovative space. A lot of organizations and people in general have probably heard of ISO standards being referred to as something in healthcare or maybe construction, safety. I know that there's a lot of international standards, but for it to now be integrated throughout the HR domain, I think it's really fantastic. Now, I know that we were discussing offline that it's fantastic to hear that Abu Dhabi Customs is one of the first organizations on a global scale, please correct me if I'm wrong, that has accepted to have this audit and go ahead with ensuring that they meet these new ISO standards.
Yes, you're absolutely correct, and they got it in 2021, around about last quarter of 2021, and I was really blown away when I saw that they just been certified. And by the way, it's not only ISO 3414. There are other HR global standards that they were certified with by LRQA, Lloyd's Registrars Quality Assurance, and I think knowing their organization so matured, they are a learning organization, and I really felt that they have the sincere desire to really illustrate the true value of their human capital ROI and people excellence. So I would expect that more private and public government, private and government entities will follow through.
Fantastic. I just want to maybe take a deeper dive on this. So can you explain to us, how do we work out, how is it calculated that you would find out what your ROI on your people is?
Yeah. Okay. So see, the ISO 30414 has 50 around about 58 metrics, okay, and for larger organizations, and 32 metrics for SMEs, small, medium, and enterprise. And there are one of those two of those metrics is about revenue per employee, and there is also the human capital ROI. Okay, so there are two metrics out of those 58 metrics that really quantifies the true value of the human resources or human capital investment. Now, for you to reach at that stage, you first need to complete all those remaining KPIs, because those are interlinked. Okay, you would not be able to achieve your optimum ROI unless you have all those predetermined KPIs first in place. So yeah, there are two KPIs that quantifies the value of the human capital. One is the human capital ROI, and there's a formula set by the ISO, and the revenue per employee.
Fantastic. And so I guess it's really important that the top line executives, finance, CFOs, etc., know what the investment is on their people and their organization, I guess across the board, but not just, business unit. You would probably want to be knowing it on the wider scale, so then you can take on more initiatives, whether you need to be cutting costs somewhere, process improvements, how can you better the organization, digitalization, for example, or even better, investing in the right talents and capabilities, within their organization. Would you see that this would be a good summary?
Yes, yes, indeed. Actually, the CEO and senior leaders really want to know how much ROI the organization gets on their people expenses, and not only CEO and senior leaders, of course, the shareholders themselves. Imagine majority. I'm sure you would agree, Trisha, with me that 40 to 50, even 50, 40 to 55% of the organization's cost is in the people, in payroll, in learning and development. So don't you want don't you want to know that how much ROI the organization gets out of this expense or investment? And the best way to do that is through the ISO 30414.
Fantastic. And if we can just maybe take a step back for perhaps, any viewers or listeners that this might be the first time that they've completely heard of all of these ISO standards specifically within the HR domain. So they're not mandatory at the moment, right? Within organizations, you don't have to pass any ISO standards, although it is certainly something that you should be considering. But I would like your advice or inputs. Why? So why were these ISO standards created in the first place?
Okay, that's a very good question. Yeah. See, uh, I'm sure everyone who's listening right now would agree that that any organization is only as good as its people, and the best way to capitalize on the people power is to manage it well. Now, how would you manage it well? There's a saying that if you cannot measure it, you cannot manage it, and if you cannot manage it, you cannot improve it. And post pandemic, continuous improvement is very essential in any organization. Another thing is that we need to strengthen the trust of our stakeholders, shareholders, on how we are capitalizing on our people. Okay, and ISO 3414 is a recognition of global standard of efficacy, transparency, and good practice in people management. There's no organization would refuse that. And another thing is that it will also intensify and strengthen the organization's brand value. Okay, resulting to a good competitive advantage within the international market. It would also attract
Yeah.
potential course.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I think talent, you know, I mean, like if you're hiring, say, for example, a C-suite director or even aspiring leaders within that organization, having these certifications, you know, could be, as more people and organizations adopt it, a reason why you want to be a part of that team or that organization, that business unit. So it drives and supports the talent to that business.
Exactly. And in addition to what you have shared right now, the most important thing is the compliance. Most of the organizations have this ESG reporting, the sustainability reporting, and having the ISO 30414 will fortify their commitment towards ESG. In terms of funding, trust and transparency in human capital reporting, it would really fortify their commitment and efforts. What else? Productivity, risk management is also covered under this international guideline. And yeah, I think those are the reasons why organizations should start aligning their human capital management, succession planning, development against this new international guideline in human capital management.
Fantastic. I love it. I think, to be quite honest, and this is with absolute all due respect for the industry and the sector, but there's quite a lot of work to do. I mean, something as very basic as getting a reply to job seekers. I mean, straight down the line to communication. I mean, there's nothing more basic. I mean, I'm sure you would have at some stage applied to positions in the past and either A, never heard anything back from an organization, or B, you know, suffered into that black hole. And if more organizations close this simple gap to even getting a reply to people, then something basic like this can then, you know, escalate to a more transparent and easier process across the board. So I think if we do the basic things correctly, we can then, you know, stress the importance of a smooth journey within the job seeking environment.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Trisha. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's all about so it's at the end of the day, it's all about the culture within the organization.
Absolutely, absolutely. I absolutely love your insights and thoughts, and especially ESG. The topic of ESG, it's certainly something that is, you know, hot at the minute, as they say, across the board, whether that's in the financial industry or not, you know, where even private equity is going or government funding businesses. So I think it's important that we are starting to adopt it in our discussions in the HR industry, because it's across the board elsewhere. I just would like to maybe divert the topic or conversation, just because I know that this is also a very area of interest of yours, but people development and talent development within organizations. You've got several reputable companies under your belt. ADNOC, correct me if I'm wrong, ADNOC is one of them you worked for as a high performer there.
Yeah, Baruch, it was Baruch. ADNOC Baruch. Baruch is under ADNOC, yes.
Fantastic. So how do you tackle and how do you manage talent within organizations?
Oh, that's a very good, very interesting and close to me. See, the talent development or the people development starts with the long-term vision of the organization. What would be the long-term strategy of the organization in terms of its business strategy? So basically, we normally start with identifying the workforce capabilities of the company. All right, by identifying how many key positions, key and critical positions within the organization. So once we have identified the key and critical position, we normally identify who could be a potential talent that needs to be developed towards that key and critical position. Now, identifying those potential talents, of course, goes through different assessments, psychometric assessment, assessment centers, leadership assessment. And the most interesting part here is that once we have identified those potential talents, then the people development kicks in. We start to implement the 70-20-10 development model. The 70% of the people development goes with the experiential learning or learning from the job, exposing them, giving them exposure experience on the next level role. Then 20% goes with coaching and mentoring, and then 10% only classroom training. So this is the strategy in terms of people development that we are adopting. The organization is also a learning organization, and injected recently the coaching culture, wherein there are certified coaches, internal coaches, which I'm also part of that internal coach. So yeah, it was a great experience, working with Baruch, and yeah, and for that, placing them, if and when there is any vacancy towards the key position, then we utilize them to be the next successor. Yeah.
Fantastic. That's really great. And I know that you have won several awards, not only in the Middle East, but back in your home country as well. If I recall correctly, you've been recognized, within the Philippines as well as Abu Dhabi. So yeah, you're certainly someone that is, I guess, a thought leader or someone who's known as a subject matter expertise professional. So thank you very much for your insights. I guess, coming back to our original discussion, what do you think, or what would it take for organizations to be willing or want, what would be the reasons why they should consider implementing and being certified and audited for these new ISO standards? Why?
I think I believe organizations should start looking at this ISO 30414, the guidelines in internal and external human capital reporting, because implementing human capital reporting is aligning their strategy and vision of the organizations against global standards. Again, as what I've said, it will strengthen the trust not only with their stakeholders but also shareholders.
Yep.
Okay, and this is the first opportunity for the organization, and particularly for human capital professionals and human capital leaders, to illustrate the true value of HR, or the true value of human capital, ROI, and people excellence. And it's about time that human capital, HR, should not be seen as expense that needs to be lowered. We are an investment that yields profit.
Yes.
Okay, and we can prove that through the ISO 30414. Okay, so we help also the bottom line of the organization. We are not just an expense, we are an asset that yields profit.
I love it. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. Now, I know that you are a consultant that does offer, services to organizations if they would like to go through being ISO accredited. And of course, I'm assuming pre-audits, correct? You have to do a pre-audit assessment before the actual audit?
Yes. So any organization who wants to know whether they are conforming with the international standards in human capital management need to do an internal conformity assessment, or an internal assessment, or gap analysis. We call it gap analysis. So that's the first step. Okay. We can do a gap analysis for you, for any organization, to see how close you are towards the ISO 30414 standards. And then after that, you will get a gap analysis report, and then you would see how close you are. If there are any variances, we are here to help you close those gaps, or bridge those gaps. Then once I am ascertained and really you know
Confident.
yes, ready to endorse the organization, then they would go now for the final conformity assessment, wherein the ISO certifying body would do the audit for them. So the first part is gap analysis.
Yep, fantastic. And last question, sorry, Joanne, I'm quizzing you a lot this morning, but how long does the process take? Like a day or a week, or what is the month?
Depends on the systems in place of the organization, but normally larger organizations already have their HRIS, Human Resource Information System, either through Oracle, SAP, or any software. If they have that in place, it could be around 1.5 to 2 months
Mhm.
for the gap analysis to bridge those gaps, and then after that, the conformity or ISO audit would follow through.
Fantastic. Good. Well, it really is a robust analysis and making sure that, you're dotting your I's and crossing your T's. So fantastic. That's really great. I will certainly pop a link to your LinkedIn profile. I guess if, people or organizations are interested to connect you to discuss this further. And you've really provided some fantastic insights. So thank you so much. And if there's anything further in closing, please feel free. Otherwise, it's been a pleasure.
Yes, thank you, Fisha, also for having me here. You are also a very influential person in the social media. It's my honor, having me here in your platform. Maybe just a final comments. I encourage all the organization, public and private, to look into this ISO 30414 standards. It will help transform your human capital management, and it's a time to be globally recognized on people in human capital excellence. So that's it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Joanne. We'll keep in touch.